and she's going to talk about Ukraine. And thank you for joining us.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you.
Okay, so let me try to share screen.
We're doing okay for not having prepared.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I do not know for how long the baby is going to allow me. Free.
He's welcome to run around this floor all
You
he
actually
wants,
like
you know?
sitting here,
No.
if that makes sense, because I was kind of like. So, does everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Something's weird about
Is the whole page showing? Or close enough?
it. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's good. Your computer's not flickering, so, you know.
I think that, oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much for giving me a chance to talk a little bit about Ukraine. My name is Solomiia. I go in this country by Mia. I have been called Somalia, 100 other things. So I actually started looking for a new job, and a few recruiters called me right first time. So I'm gonna push it and see how far I'm gonna get with this. But I represent UNWLA, Philadelphia region. So I have Delaware, parts of New Jersey, and all of Pennsylvania. We have 9 different branches. There are 200 women that are active to do things. We are talking about all different ages. I have women who are 18. I have women who just turned 98. So there is a whole different variety. Our organization is turning 100 years this year.
Wow.
We are the longest standing women's organization in this country. And originally, we were founded by 5 women in New York City who had their own little small organizations. And then they were like, well, we can be stronger together. So that's how this organization grew to be now 1,700 women.
Wow.
We have a few main things we do: care, education, cultivate, and advocate. Those are the things that we care for. So pretty much it touches every aspect of humanity in the long run. But today I wanted to do a quick introduction as to what is Ukraine, what is the history, what is the US-Ukraine relationship historically, because a lot of things are being said and a lot of things are not being said that are kind of just put away. So I will just start with basic facts. Officially, Ukraine became finally independent the way we know it today in 1991. It was voted by more than 92%, I think it was like 92.8, but nearly 100% voted to separate from Soviet Union and become an independent country with our own government in Kyiv. So that happened in 1991. Second point, actually, my nephew corrected me yesterday. That helped me. Kids, the largest country in Europe is Russia, but the whole contained within Europe, that's Ukraine. So if you look here on the map, that's the size of Texas you see here. And the outline is actually the size of Ukraine. So we're looking pretty much, Texas is a bit larger. So if we were to add PA and Texas together, we would like minus that, we would get somewhere. But that's the territory. So, and for Europe, that's huge. So just kind of think like that. We have the official language that is Ukrainian. I went to school when I was 7, and I went to Russian speaking school. It was a Russian school. All of my English books, German books, math books were still in Russian. Once I went to 5th grade, that's when we started changing. Majority of radio and TV and books in bookstores were still in Russian. So even if you wanted to learn Ukrainian, it was kind of like a frowned upon. You were from the village. You were not educated. You did not represent something if you were speaking Ukrainian. So even though it was an official language all along, we do not have an official religion. We have a variety pack. And we somehow managed to live in peace with literally everybody. And that was kind of our main thing was, are you a human being? Are you decent? We're going to get along. That was kind of usually the driver. In 1991, when we became independent, we had 52 million people. today, after 2022, we have 37. So about 5 million flat because they simply have nowhere to live. Their multiple cities were wiped down to the ground, so there's nowhere for them to live. And then we're talking since 2014 this started happening. Our highest point in the country is in a Carpathian. I have been there multiple times. Proud of it. Don't know why, but I always have a need to say about it. It's really nice if once this ends in a way that I would hope and dream of, I would encourage everybody to visit it because it's an amazing view to look at. It's very, you just kind of look and you understand you're free when you're there. And the biggest river is Dnipro River. The reason why I'm talking about the river, when you look at Ukraine, perfectly in the middle there, that's where this river divides Ukraine into Eastern and Western, which you hear all the time. There is Eastern and Western Ukraine. That is how this river goes. It literally goes through the capital. So you have Eastern Kyiv, Western Kyiv. So the same thing. And this river determines a lot historically for us. So short, do not know how many here are Scandinavian, but originally Ukraine is located on the territory of the first Eastern Slavic state, which was Kievan Rus. It was founded by the Vikings. It was a huge, very important state on the international arena, and Kyiv was huge in trading. Further into this, they decided to, for centuries, they were very strong, and they were using their kids as a way to talk with the rest of Europe. So they would marry each other off into families, so then they had influence in other countries. So very smart way. In Europe, they tried to keep it between themselves to keep the power. Here, these guys were like, I have a daughter. She's pretty. Daughter, you need to be literate. You need to be smart. Remember where you come from. So that was they were very strong for about 4 centuries. Then they fell because Mongol attacks started happening. So it was just a fall, and there was nothing that could have come out of it. They took over, and that's when the first time you see something like Ukraine being formed. So the western part, west of the Dnipro River, they claim their own country, which we know as Halichia. And they were pretty good and successful. The problem was that everybody wanted a part of it, whether we are talking Poland, whether we're talking literally every neighbor around wanted a part of that land, because if you look at the map of that time, all the trade that took place had to go through there. So for them, it was important. If we proceed further, 14th and 18th century, this is when Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth rises and they just take over all of Ukraine. Sounds cool, sounds great, except one thing, that at the same time that Russian Empire happens right at the end, at the fall, Russian Empire. So then again, we become part of Russian Empire. At any point, doesn't matter who we were under, there are Ukrainian documents, Ukrainian books in Ukrainian language, read and documented, and we proceed. And finally, when we became somewhat independent, that's in the 20th century, we had the Ukrainian People's Republic and then Western Ukraine People's Republic. And in January, they pretty much said, we are united, we're becoming our own country. Thank you very much, leave us alone. And that lasted the whole 2 years.
Oh, gosh.
So 1918, Ukraine declares independence, and at this point we are fighting the White Army, the Red Army. Poland, we are fighting Bolsheviks. So everybody is trying to get a piece of this land because for them it's the way to control and access to Europe. So we had the whole 2 years of everybody being, and then that's when U.S. Ukrainian Soviet Social Republic, that's where I was born still, that's when they fully took over, and that we are now just part of USSR. Nobody's asking you. They were kind of smart about it because first they took 2/3, which was Eastern, and a little bit over the West, because those people were closer to them, and Western, we were from the mountains, majority of us, so it's kind of difficult to hunt down people in mountains. Just not going to work. So they decided to take that part and then take over the rest. So first we became part of Poland. We were under Poland. 2/3 were under Soviet Union. In 20s, Soviet Union comes out and says, look, you can speak your language. We will support it. Go. What they didn't say is that we will control it. What you say, how you say, what you write, what songs and what do they say. So it was very controlled for years. And the 32, 33 is very tragic on our map because nobody ever speaks about it. Millions of people were starved to death in eastern Ukraine, while people were separated by the river. There were families. They could see that they had nothing to eat and they couldn't get there to give them food, and they were their family. And the way it was done, it was from now on, nobody has their own farm. You have 5 cows, you bring it to the government. You have 2 cows, you bring it to the government. And then all of you come to tend to these cows, and we will give you half a liter of milk for your family. So this will be your pay. That's how they start pretty much the most prominent population of Ukraine, which was educated, which had something to their name. In the cities, it was better because you could somewhat move. People who were in the villages, they were not allowed to leave the village. It was that limited. So there were pictures, and there are movies and documentaries about it in English, where villages were dying out, and you just see people let go of their dogs because they knew they're going to eat them. So that was the kids. It was very tragic, which nobody talks about. We're talking about 7 million people died in a year. Meanwhile, wheat and other items were literally going rotten because they would come and they would take it from your house, whatever you had. Soviets would come and take it, and it would just went to trash. So it was a huge way to control people so that nobody would have the capacity to speak up against somebody. This is the time, once they did that, they decided that, you know what, this is a great time to say no more Ukrainian. Thank you very much. You had your few years. Ukrainian is now the language of the traitor. Speak Russian. This is it. So all schools were speaking Russian from moving on. And 1939, the Soviet Union annexes Ukraine. Well, it should be still sharing. So we annexed. Cuckoo, you can. No. It says I'm just gonna redo it. Is it good now?
There we go.
Baby free time is over. So, and this is 39. They come on over and they take us over. Because if you remember, Soviet Union at first was together with the Nazi Germany. So it was a pact that they made where they divided Poland and other countries who is going to get what. So for Moscow, Ukraine was always that bone in the throat that bothered them. And this was their time when they did it. Ukraine suffered one of the worst devastations of generation of people that died against Nazi Germany. So we had 5 million of Ukrainians that died, and then also almost all of the Jewish population in Ukraine killed, which was 1.5 million. So it was a bit of a moving forward. Now we have Crimean Tatars. They were actual native population that lived there. They have their own language. They have their own religion. They were all deported to Siberia. Families, everybody. If you were sick, where they didn't think you would make it on the train, you were not put in the train. You were not put in the hospital. You were left on the train station where they would take your child, your husband, or your siblings. You were just left to die. So that, and the reason why they did it because they claimed that you were collaborating with Nazi. There was no means for them to collaborate geographically, okay? Basic things like that. that was in 1954. I really like how American side of the story portrays unexpectedly this kind movement. Khrushchev gives Crimea to Ukrainian Republic. It was not unexpectedly. It was not a kind movement. Crimea had no means to have continuous supply of water, electricity, or food. It was delivered from them from Ukraine, but by ships. There was no supply. So then they give us this island, and in return, we give them more parts of eastern Ukraine. So it was an exchange done at the time. We get the Crimea because it geographically makes sense. So 1954 till 1957, we do the bridge, we do the northern stream where we provide water to them, we provide food, we provide electricity, so they have it as a continuous means of support, and that was 1957. So that was not an expected move. It was very well thought through activity of how can I get rid of this land that I have no means to provide for. In the 60s, this is probably one of the closest to us parts in the world, like in the history. Everybody who had an education, everybody who had something to say was killed or sent out. Writers, poets, scientists, everybody was sent. And we are talking like Joseph Brodsky. That man died here in the United States. He later won Nobel Prize in Literature. Then we had Alla Hurska and Vasil Stus. Like, there are a lot of names. The reason why that was happening was, so pretty much people were getting after them to protest because Soviet Union didn't follow even their own constitution. So they were like, hey, you're not treating us like people. Like, can we please get something out of this? So that's how it all went. And they were killed till the end of Soviet Union. They were still being hunted down. So 1991, they were still being hunted down. Yeah, they were staged, they fell out of the window. Multiple hanged themselves, So that was a part of it. And then in 1986, we had a Chernobyl situation that happened. And people very frequently say, well, if they had known about it, this wouldn't happen. They had known about it 11 years before. It was a poor design of the actual reactor. Soviet Union decided to say, no, we're going to proceed this way. So yes, it was very much preventable if the government at that time actually believed in what their people were telling them. So today, 1991, I was 1. We broke off, great time, except we didn't have a constitution till I was 6. It was a great time. So we are aligning our values, 1991, with European values. We say that we do not want to have common values with Russia. 2002, Ukraine says we want to commit to joining NATO. 2004, this is where I have very good memories of myself at this point. Pretty much we had a falsified presidential elections. Millions came out. It was Orange Revolution. We had a re-election. All good, except years later, the same guy wins now. He is very pro-Russian. He's saying that we will not be joining NATO, which Ukrainians wanted all along, and that we will be pretty much going towards Russia, entering a customs union with Russia. This resulted in students coming out, protesting, and he decides to reject the EU membership. And this is how it all started. 100 civilians were killed. The Crimea was occupied. Donetsk and Luhansk, this is where we started seeing actual military actions. So Crimea, not a single bullet was shot. Not a single person was killed by Ukrainian military army. I believe it was actually with the U.S., where the U.S. president guided and recommended to make it peaceful to save lives. So we did follow, we did agree. Since 2014, international media referred for 8 years to this situation as a conflict. Conflict usually means the wrongdoing of both sides. War does not necessarily mean the war. There is a very easy way to track when you change the words, how people react to them. So today, this is what we have. We actually, 2014, we covered. 2018, we actually were able to get our own supervision. So we are no longer part of Moscow Church. So we now have our own. Zelensky wins. He has 70% election vote, which is rare for Ukrainians. We usually like to bicker. So this is very uncommon for us. 2022, Russia launches a full-scale invasion. Dan and I were sitting at home. No way. He was telling me it was going to happen. I was beating myself in the chest. No, this would never happen. He's just trying to do it to control, to provoke. That was a night when.
It was like 1 a.m., I think.
Yeah, it was 1 a.m. when we went to bed, and it was the first time I learned how wrong I was. It was not something that. This thing, I like to talk about this because this is important to know. So 1996, Budapest Memorandum. So Ukraine was number 3 country in nuclear weapons that we had in the whole world. So in 1996, UK, US, and Russia come to us and they say, look, we will take your weapons from you in exchange and guarantees for your sovereignty, for your independence and freedom. So if anything ever happens, we will protect you. La-di-da. Oh, well, that worked out for us. So we gave it all up. There's also aspect to it. We had no means to take care of it. We had no money. We were a country of the whole 5 years. But Ukraine could also said, you know what, we're not doing it. And then the rest of the world would have to figure out how to make sure we contain that. So we could have been stubborn. We could have caused a problem. But it was part of, we have no means to take care of it. Sounds like a good deal. You take it. We are no longer a nuclear state. Works for everyone. 2001, 2021, Ukraine, one of only 3 countries that actually openly supported U.S. operations in Afghanistan. And we did send our specialized troops. I believe we sent 5,000. Yeah. So we were not a NATO state. We had absolutely nothing telling us that we have to do it. It was purely being an ally. So we have sent 5,000 of our specialized troops training. And if you look into it, Ukrainian military is actually one of the most trained military, which people don't expect it to be. 18 soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, died in the name of the United States with the United States flag. That usually people don't speak about. That is usually kind of forgotten. And question that I guess, would Ukraine help us if we were in the same situation? Ukraine did help you. You just have tendencies to not pick the things that are not convenient at the moment. So 2014, 2019, U.S. provides Ukraine $1.5 billion in aid, military aid. When we are talking about this, this is exactly the same as 2022 till present. Something to keep in mind when we say that we gave $182 billion. Nobody came to Ukraine and gave cash. Doesn't work like that. So 182 billion were allocated, but doesn't mean it was spent. On top of that, there is a timeline. If you don't spend this money up until that time, that money no longer can be spent for that purpose. That is simply United States laws. About half of it was dispersed at the moment, and that includes that U.S. military being trained in Europe. That is a replenishment of U.S. defense stocks. That means you gave us your old equipment. We took it. You are manufacturing in the United States your new equipment, new tanks, new Patriots, literally everything new that is being developed here. So your people still have jobs. We have means to defend ourselves and proceed with it. So there was a good amount. I think there was about 18 million that was given for economy. So to pay salary to military, things like that. It was given. So that is in there as well. This map is something I want to everybody. This is everything that's happening today. This is not a historical thing. So we have about 20,000 children were kidnapped from Ukraine. So parents are separated. There are filtration camps. So if you want to leave occupied territory, you have to go through a filtration camp where they separate all of your family members, they question all of you. Men usually do not leave those filtration camps, and it's only towards Russia. There's nothing towards Ukraine. You're not allowed to leave to Ukraine. So, and then some women and children are united and some are not. So 20,000 children are now living in orphanages, being adopted by Russian families, and now they're being trained Russian anthem, Russian values, and how they're going to grow up and fight against Ukraine. There are situations and cases where kids killed themselves because they simply could not process it. Philadelphia, city of Philadelphia, per year has about 20,000 kids being born. These kids were raised by somebody, and we're talking about from 2 to like 15, 16. 17, 18, they're not taken because there was an instance where a kid killed their parents, adopted parents. And then the kid killed themselves as well. We are talking about maternity hospitals. How many times they showed maternity hospitals? Novokakhovka Dam, that's an ecological problem. They took the dam and they blew it off. And now there are animals, but literally every single aspect that can live or survive is gone. People don't have drinking water. So we proceeding, Bucha, Irpin, Mariupol, we have proof that people were running away, they were shooting in the back, and they had tied hands. That was recorded. Nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia and Nakhodad, they are controlling it, and they are manipulating and controlling the world. They are turning off the cooling water and turning it back on to make sure that everybody else knows what they can do. So why are we fighting? What is the big deal about being Ukrainian, and why we can't just join Russian and be together, as a lot of say? Why is this happening? So there is a reason why I came. Why when I had an opportunity to take citizenship, I was actually very happy to take it. U.S. is built on a very basic values that align with my values. That is liberty, freedom, equality, and self-government. That is so deeply rooted in everything that this country is built on that it's impossible not to want to be a part of it. For Ukraine, it's the same. We do not want theirs. We do not want anybody else's. We just want to have the ability to say when we get up, when we eat, what we eat, and what we talk about. It's not that much to us. The question for me is different. If Russia today stops fighting, Ukraine will be there, there will be no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no more Ukraine. But what comes after? Do we believe that Russia will stop? That Russia is not going to go to Balkan countries? Do we believe that? What happens when Balkan countries are actually NATO members? We now here have to get up and actually go fight, no longer just give our equipment and make new ones. We actually have to participate because that's part of our NATO membership. Do we realize that us giving up on Ukraine and stepping away will actually cost the lives of our children to us? That is something that's just Europe. And then we have Asia, and then we have Middle East. We have local bullies that are waiting and looking. If the world is going to let this go, what is going to stop them? So this one is cultural heritage. A lot of things were made to be Russian, even though they are not. So we all know Black Square, which is Kazimir Malevich, 1915. Every museum you go to, it says Russian artist. Malevich is very much Ukrainian, had always been Ukrainian. So that is something that's part of our decolonization project, where we are working with all of the museums in the United States. And I know Philly has changed it, Museum of Arts, that type of thing. Another thing is Carol of the Bells. You all know it, Ukrainian, originally called Shedrik. First time it was presented in the United States, it was in Carnegie Hall. You will not see it here. In 1922. It was a troop. They were present. This is the original actual thing. And I went to the 100-year celebration in December 2022 to it. It was packed. There was nowhere to sit. I got tickets from Ukrainian embassy for UNWLA. I was sitting in the end of the end. But it was absolutely amazing experience. So there are a lot of things like that. If you actually look into it, you would be surprised. It's not Russian. It's Ukrainian. A lot of things you know or use have Ukrainian roots. And then this is what everybody knows. Everybody knows the eggs that you draw. Everybody knows the embroidery, and everybody knows the handmade necklaces and stuff like that that we all have. Eggs. Ukraine was the last country to be baptized in Europe. So we carry our pagan values very high. They still live within us, and it's part of our cultural heritage now. So they decided to twist it up and present this cultural heritage. For me, it's big. I grew up on it. So the thing is, how can you help? When you donate, you can donate. When you donate, please verify who you donate to. Red Cross, if your idea is that you will donate to Red Cross and it's going to help Ukraine, absolutely not. There's absolutely nothing they have done for us. Nothing. They didn't even see our troops who are prisoners of war because they don't let them. So there is nothing that's happening there. Another tip, when you donate, sure, many of you know that, how much admin cost that organization takes. I was a bit taken back when I learned that some organizations were like, oh, we take 30%, but then we pay rent. And I was like, your rent is part of your admin cost. Like, you should build that in. So just something to keep in mind. Advocate. Be a voice. Do not, and advocate for all of your beliefs. We have weeks twice a year, all of Ukrainians and everybody who wants to support this, where we, literally 600 people, go to DC to the White House, where we have meetings scheduled with all of our representatives. We are their constituents. Use your voice for whatever that is. If you do not use your voice, somebody else will. And whoever is louder will be heard. So that's, and then simply be present. If you have an event going on, show up, be there. There are social media, share things that you verify. Do not just blindly follow whatever it says. Very frequently there is manipulation. We have seen posts where it was like, this Ukrainian soldier doesn't have anything to eat and blah, 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 and everybody shares it. And then the original person who was there changes the text, changes the image, and now it's very much pro-Russian text. So monitor who you follow, what you share, and just kind of thank you for being supportive and for being there. I'll be glad to take any questions if you have any.
If you would talk about the funds that you're raising next week.
Yeah.
Because I know they're going through you, and I know
Yes.
that Ukraine is getting them, so if you share
Yeah,
that.
so the next Saturday we have a walk where, well, UNWLA is just so very convenient for me to be in those shoes. But there is a walk being organized, and that walk is being organized to benefit Ukraine. So if you register, if you donate, those funds go directly to the organization, and I have those. Nothing is going to the Wayne County Democratic Party, I believe, is going directly to us.
Right.
So that is a great event to do it with and
And tell them
support.
what it's being used for.
So we will be providing it all for medical supplies. We do not purchase anything that can be considered military equipment or can be considered as supporting foreign army. It's to save life, and we are talking tourniquets, we are talking medical supplies that help heal the wounds and other things like that. We will have a first aid kit present on this Saturday. So everybody who wants to come and look at it, please come. We'll also have some t-shirts for sale, some Ukrainian art to look at.
And if you want to sign up online, and if you want lunch, You have
Oh,
to
yeah.
do that today because I have to give them a number tomorrow. And the lunch is through the mustard seed in Waymark. Those of you who are familiar with that. There are flyers on the table there.
You have a choice of 4 or 5 different lunches to choose from.
So, do you have any questions? I'll be glad to share to answer.
I think somebody online. Anybody online have any questions?
Thank you.
Should I text you, Linda, about signing up for the lunch?
Oh, okay, we have a customer.
Or do I just do it online?
Just do it online. Go to Step Up for Ukraine.
Rallyup.com.
And just follow the directions.
Okay, thank you.
Our original goal was $5,000 and we have already raised $5,830. So we have a new goal of $8,000.
Wow, excellent.
And, yes, so we're doing really good, but we want to do even better. So, yeah, just go online, Step Up for Ukraine.
Great, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at the walk, there will be Ukrainian jewelry.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, for
various
sale.
items for
And
sale.
some items, I'll bring some items that are like 100 years old, embroidery and other things. Come and look at it.
So we share that as well.
That sounds wonderful. What time will that be on Saturday?
It's from 11 to 3 in Bingham Park in Hawley.
That's fantastic.
And you can come and eat
Do I
and not
keep
walk.
Yeah, you don't have to walk, you can just show up. But if you want lunch, you have to register.
Now, can we donate there?
You can donate there, absolutely. Checks
Okay,
to,
great.
wait a minute, checks to you
Yes,
and
do take care.
UNWLA.
yes. UNWLA, Philadelphia region.
But the only way to have a sandwich
Yeah, that's what I said.
is to go online.
If you want lunch, you gotta register today.
Very similar to how. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is good. I can do this again.